Hey, yo, I got my sis, Jennifer Trotter, in the building. You look so beautiful.
Thank you, sis. It's good to be here.
Oh my gosh, it's so great having you here. Like, I don't know if the people knew, like, we were doing a podcast together before podcasts even became like popping.
Period. Uh-huh.
Period. Like, we're just missing a few others, and then we'll have our he said, she said chat together.
Right, right.
But how have you been though? Let the people know who you are, what you do, and what makes Jen poppin'. Because she's it, y'all. Just in case y'all didn't know.
Hey, y'all. So, my name is Jen Trotter. I am a content contributor. I am a speaker. I am a conversationalist. And I am about all the things singleness. So, I'm excited to
Yes.
be here.
Y'all, I call her the singles whisperer. Like when she talks, and you're single, like I need you to be taking notes because I promise you she's going to change your life. Like everything that comes out of her mouth is just like ruby. So make sure y'all are taking notes the entire podcast. If you haven't shared this yet, make sure you share it to all your social media stages and platforms. Make sure you take a screenshot of the audio or the video and post it in your story and tag us as well. And so Jen, we're going to hop straight into it because you know the streets been talking.
Ah!
And I heard you got a new little boo or whatever.
Ooh!
So, I mean, the people want to know, like, what's tea?
Ah! Well, y'all, somebody done scooped me up, and
Oh,
I'm really enjoying it. Well, I don't know if you follow me, you know that not too long ago my mom passed away, and during that time, y'all, he just popped back up. Like we knew each other before. We tried to date 12 years ago. It did not work. We both were in two long-term relationships with different people, and we just kind of came back around to each other. We went out September 11th, and we have been inseparable ever since. And it's been
wow.
amazing. It's been amazing.
Oh my goodness. Yo, Jen, I'm so happy for you. Like,
Thank
the
you.
glow is real. Like, you're literally glowing.
He's a
And,
good
and you
guy.
were talking about how, like, this really transpired right after your mom had passed away.
Mhm.
And I know how grief can be very complicated, it's very difficult to process. And I feel like there could be people listening right now who are trying to figure out like how to navigate this dating space while also processing difficult emotions like grief.
hmm I think one thing that we really have to remember is that grief is not something you get over, it's something
Mhm.
you walk through. And if
That
you
part.
are blessed enough, and if you invest in community, then you will have people that walk with you through that process. I
Yep.
think it's important. I wouldn't say tell all of your business, but if you're going through like a very traumatic loss, like the loss of a parent, the loss of someone that is really dear to your heart, I do believe that you have to communicate that, because every day is a different day, right? And however, feel comfortable sharing however much you want to share, but sometimes you may want to shut down. Sometimes you may not want to go out. Sometimes you may just need to vent, and you need to communicate that to that person so that they can be, if they're open to it, to be that okay with you not being as consistent, or okay with you having bad days.
That's good.
And if you don't communicate that, then they'll just think, oh, you're being irrational, or you're not being consistent, or they may even think that you don't like them. But if you are consistently dating one person, or however you're, navigating through that space, I would just give people a heads up, like, hey, I not asking them to be your therapist, but just telling them, like, hey, I just suffered a traumatic loss. You can
Mhm.
share or not share, but let them know that that may impact your behavior while you're dating. And if you get a good person, I believe that while you are at your most vulnerable, you get to see whether that person is patient, whether that person is kind, whether
That
that
part.
person is a good listener, and
Mhm.
whether you are able to lean on that person
Mhm.
during your time of need. So while it is a difficult space, I believe that you get clarity when you experience
That's
a
so
traumatic
good.
loss. hmm
That's so good. So like being in that place of vulnerability for you, um, it allowed you to see whether that person was safe or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then in my times of, like I said, every day is not a good day. And with
Mhm.
my boyfriend, like I remember trying to fake tough or
Yeah.
trying to be okay during the days that I really wasn't. And he's like, you don't have to do that today. Like he redirects
Yeah.
my fake strength, and he
Wow.
allows me to be weak and say, hey,
I love
you don't
it.
have to do that today. Like it's okay. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to put on a mask. That was your mother. So whatever we need to do in this moment to either help you cope, or if I need to back off and give you some time, I'm willing to do that. So that's
Mhm.
why I stress communication, and then you can kind of see if that person is for you, and that
Yes.
person can see if that's something that they're willing to bear with you, because it's still a choice and it is a lot.
It is a lot. But you know what, Jen? Like, I love the fact that you're talking about when you're in a relationship with somebody, like allowing that person to be vulnerable, to let their guards down, and to not personify that myth of the strong black person, the strong
Yes.
black woman, strong black man. Because like at the end of the day, like there's no such thing as a strong person 100% of the time.
Right.
So to be able to have a spouse who can kind of call that out, like, yo, you're not being real right now. I need you to kind of take that mask off and work through that. I think that's something special.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah. So am I invited to the wedding, or like who do I have to?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
okay.
You my girl for real. Like yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yay.
Absolutely.
Yes. All right, y'all. So I'm going to the wedding. Um, yeah, I'll keep y'all updated on what I choose to wear. I know Jen is gonna look beautiful, and the music is gonna be popping. Like this is gonna be lit. Um, Jen, I know you. So we're talking about like grieving, and we kind of like jumping straight into this because you're saying so many great things. But we were talking about this process of grief, and navigating the dating space. Prior to us starting the podcast, you talked to me about how like your therapist played a significant role in you being able to kind of like work through that. What would you say about that to the listeners?
Let me tell y'all. And I know, so first of all, Dr. Chanda is like the mental health champ, but I'm not just saying this because I'm on a podcast with her. Therapy will literally change your life, and it will help cultivate your dating life. So with my process with my therapist, she challenges me in a real way, like
I
because
love
so
it.
during that the space of the passing of my mother, I was in a lot of transition space. I'm telling y'all all my business, this is really tea. I was talking to somebody else that I thought was the one. That didn't work out. Started talking to this other guy, and in my therapy sessions we started to just unmask some of the distrust issues that I had in
Mhm.
relationships, period. And I'm saying that because she did not allow me to run in fear for what I thought may have happened, but to look at the reality of what was going on, and allow myself to know that I am worthy of good things without the other shoe dropping. Like without waiting for something bad to happen, without, waiting for it to turn sour, but to have an optimistic outlook at the
Oh
dating
my gosh.
process, and to really challenge my norms, my beliefs on what dating is, my expectations, and what I deserve and what I wanted to accept. So
Love
let
it.
me tell y'all, you don't have to wait for a traumatic event to start therapy. It is really
Say
for
it
your
again.
you don't have to wait for a traumatic event to start therapy, but it's literally going to enhance your life in every area. And for me, I know for a fact the dating life, because I would have been, I was just at a very raw place. Bye, boy. Like, no, like, I'm out of here. And she was able to just help me critically think about my life and my dating perspective.
I love that, yo. I feel like when people see therapy taking place like in the media or on TV or what have you, they have this kind of one track mind of what it is. Like it's supposed to be somebody there just agreeing with you and just listening, just sitting back and just we just gonna listen. But I love how you're dismantling that. Your therapist challenged you. Your therapist was somebody who disrupted some of the ways that you think, and a lot of people do have a misunderstanding as to like what the therapeutic process entails. Jen, are you still with me? It looks like the screen is frozen. All right, y'all, we're going to wait for the camera to reload. But y'all, Jen is dropping so many nuggets. So she's basically saying that when an individual goes to therapy, whether it's for a traumatic loss or traumatic issues that may have happened in life, no matter what it is, when you go to therapy, the job of your therapist is to help you help yourself, basically. We're not there to give advice. We're not there to sit there and just sit back and listen passively and just allow you to just kind of talk about things and ramble, if you will. Our job is to be able to hold a safe space and to be able to conceptualize what it is you're talking about in the room, and to eventually get to a place to where we can, after building rapport, of course, get to a place to where we can challenge some of your belief systems, challenge the way you think about life, challenge some of these relationships that you may have seen in your lifetime that may have caused a skewed perspective, or to impacted the way you think and believe about different things related to relationships. So Jen, I love that you're starting already, sis. So am I back? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect, girl. No, because you starting already. And so we just gonna hop straight into it, because especially, discussing how grief and other complicated emotions can really impact the way we show up in these dating spaces. My first question to you is, what impacts one's overall, impacts their ability to be confident and to show up in dating spaces confidently? Because if I can be honest, I wasn't always confident in dating spaces. So yeah, what do you think impacts that?
Me either. I think there are a number of things that impacts how we show up confidently. One, that feeling of rejection. So our failed relationships in the past, or the things that people have said to us, done to us, our traumatic experiences with relationships will affect the way that we show up in our dating relationships. Feeling like we are an option and not a prize, right? Like, that really affects how we show up in our dating space. And I believe that we have to, so many people are they're acting like they're on an interview, which is okay, but we have to remember that we are the interviewer. Like, it is not just me waiting for you to choose me. Like, you have to know your value. And I think because we have experienced so much, especially in our 20s and 30s, and I'm not saying that everyone has this extensive, type of dating background, but even your childhood trauma can show up in your dating. Your, the friendship trauma can show up in your dating, right? And I think if you look at yourself as damaged goods, and you look at yourself as an option and not as a prize, as someone who is worthy of love, someone who is worthy of having a healthy partner and a healthy relationship, then you will go into dating as the underdog. And your rejection will show, and your abandonment issues will show, and all of the past traumas and hurts, they will show. But you literally have to make sure you show up as yourself, worthy as you are, ready to receive healthy love.
Yo, this is why I call her the singles whisperer. Like, that was the first question. Like, yo, and she already done snatched your edges. Like, we over here bald headed because we listening to Jen talking about we've been rejected, and that's why we can't show up in these dating spaces confidently. Jen, so many things you just said right there. Like, it was literally a mouthful. When we talk about these, because here's the thing. When people go into these dating spaces, and by people, I'm including myself in there too, and we're not showing up confidently, we don't always consider how things in childhood could have impacted that. We don't consider how things that we've experienced in our friend groups, things like rejection, not being chosen, even things like colorism, like all these different things can impact how we show up in dating spaces. And I love what you said about not seeing yourself as damaged goods. How can we get to that space to where we can, like you hitting it?
We really have to look at our experiences, the good and the bad, and look at it as content or as substance or as
Right.
evidence, receipts that we have survived certain
Mm-hmm.
things. So even like when we talk about going after a job, when we talk about pursuing things that we love, we look at ourselves as overcomers. Why don't you look at yourself as an overcomer when you're dating? Right? Why does your last relationship have to define who you are? What if we just chalked it up to a poor experience and say that I learned or that I've grown from that experience? It's never a loss. So then
Mm-hmm.
you enter relationships with feeling like you're losing, like you are a loser. Because my last relationship was a quote unquote failure. It wasn't a failure, it's evidence that you can survive anything. It wasn't trash. It wasn't just a loss. It is evidence that I can learn from past experiences, because the person that I am now is not the same person that I was 6 months ago, a year ago in that last relationship. I took what happened in that and I learned from it. I flipped it and I became better, right? So with that, we have to go into the dating experience as an overcomer. It is not, well, tell me about your last failed relationship. My last relationship was not a failure, right? It was not a
That
failure
part.
because I learned from something. It just so happened that me and that person did not work out. We were not meant to be with each other. We were not compatible, right? And
Mm.
I took what I learned from that and I flipped it. And this gen is a more enhanced gen. This is a gen that you get to experience in another level of wholeness, in another level of healing, right? So it's not just, oh, I've had so many failed relationships and I'm hoping that this one worked out. No, 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 no. I have content, I have substance, I have evidence of what has happened from the past, and I'm using all of that as an overcomer to help me enhance in my dating experience now.
So when can I book a session with you? Because that's the real tea. Like when, or like, are you taking client? No. Okay.
Not quite.
Um, you. Oh my gosh, my head is spinning right now. It's just so much information. I hope y'all are writing this down because you're gonna need this later. When we change our perspective about how relationships worked out, then we can see ourselves as being overcomers, being triumphant over the things that other people may have deemed as failures. Is
Mhm.
that what you're saying, Jen?
Yeah, yeah. And
My God.
taking all of the experience. So sometimes we say, oh, that person just didn't treat me right, or they didn't do this and they didn't do that. And we enter this new dating experience or a relationship with other people the same way. No, no,
Mhm.
no, no, no. It was two of y'all in that relationship. So we evaluate, what could I have done better? Right? And what
Mhm.
could that what do I want in a partner from what I have experienced in the past? What happens is we don't learn the lessons. So we keep repeating the same test with different partners because we ain't got it yet.
Cycles.
We don't have
Yes.
it yet. We don't have it yet. It's not just showing up confidently. It's not just I'm the best thing since sliced bread. That may be a little bit true, but it's to refine who you are so that you can be a better version for yourself and for your potential partners in the next experience or the last experience, right? Your
Yeah.
forever partner, right? It's not just to say what they did and what happened and how they mistreated you. No, 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 no. What on both ends, what could I have done better? Could I have been more patient?
Mhm.
Could I have been more communicative? Could I have been more understanding, right? Could I have made more time? And when we put both of those pieces together and we do our own self-work, then
Yeah.
we can show up confidently because we didn't just waste our time, right? We had an experience.
It was all an
It was
experience.
all an experience.
Oh my goodness. I gotta listen to this podcast myself because I feel like you're reading me on my own podcast, but it's cool though, Jen. Like it's cool. Um, so you kind of alluded to this in your response from my previous question. So when discussing things like imposter syndrome, I feel like that's something we often talk about and think about in spaces of professionalism, whether it's like school or work or what have you. But we don't really talk about it when it comes to being in these dating spaces and how
Mhm.
we often can feel like imposters or not good enough.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering, like, how can we kind of overcome imposter syndrome while dating?
One of the things is we have to find people that are safe for us.
Mm.
When you're in a safe space, it's easier for you to unmask your vulnerabilities, right? You don't have to pretend to be something that you're not. When one, you know who you are, and you know what you offer. When
Yeah.
I know who I am, I know what I do well, and I also know the opportunities in which I need to improve on, right? That comes with the self-worth. So when you have someone, or when you're dating quality people that have
Mm-hmm.
the qualities that you desire, number one, you need to look for safety. So when you're not at your best self, you can say, this is something that I would like to work on, right? So we when we talk about showing up confidently, it's not, again, I'm amazing and I do everything right. It's,
Right.
I'm amazing, I have these strengths, and it's not weaknesses, I have these opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
right? And for people who are safe, you feel a little bit more empowered to share your opportunities. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be that this is a deep relationship. These could literally just be friends. Your friendship should be safe. And with safe people, you can kind of unmask and say, this is something, some of the things that I'm working on. And it doesn't have to be like a spill out session. It can come up in conversation when we're learning about each other, when we're learning what we like and what we don't like. First of all, you have to get rid of um, lying to yourself.
Mm. Talk about
Like,
that.
you can't show up trying to defeat imposter syndrome when you wear a mask every day in your other spaces.
Hey,
You have
yo.
to show up authentically, right? Because when you're authentic and you're confident, it's kind of like, this is who I am. This is what I'm working on. Are you coming along for the journey? If not, I'm cool. I'm going to improve me anyway, right? So then I don't have to pretend. Like, then I don't have
Yeah.
to allow the voices, that talks to me, say that I'm not good enough. Well, I mean, I'm a Christian, so I know that there are some areas that I am weak. And the Bible says, where I'm weak, he's strong. Like, I mean, I try to get super deep, but we
Go
know, to be
ahead.
honest with ourselves, everyone has an area of opportunity.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I'm not good. That doesn't mean that I'm not worthy. That doesn't mean that I'm not a good partner.
Mm-hmm.
That just means I have to find someone safe that I'm willing to grow in front of and with.
That's so good, Jen. Yo. So you mean to tell me when we go into these relationships with masks on, we can't overcome imposter syndrome like that? Like, we have to.
No, it's gonna fall off. At some point, you're going to outrun yourself. At some
Mm.
point, the mask has to come off. I mean, if it's really, if you're talking some deep stuff, you're having some uncovering conversations, it's gonna fall off
Child.
one way or another. Just like now we're women. Just like in the natural, if I'm really dealing with you, at some point you're gonna see me without my wig. I don't got a wig today, but just in general, at some point you're gonna see me without my makeup. At some point you may see me in, now I ain't gonna be looking to mess around you, but you may see me in my not going out clothes, right? That's the same way in our emotions when it's deep enough. But the
Mm-hmm.
reality is, we're talking to people on a surface level. We want surface relationships and we want surface marriages. When you go
Oof.
deep, that imposter syndrome has to go, because I'm asking real questions that's going to uncover who we both are.
Mm.
Even in our friendships, I'm not just looking for cute pictures and us to go to dinner. I want to really talk and get to know you. And when we
Right.
dive deep, it's gonna come off. At some point, you're gonna see me without my fake nails. Huh? That means you're gonna see me when it's not a great day. That's when you're gonna
Yeah.
see me when I'm nervous. You're gonna see me when I'm scared. You're gonna see me in those different spaces if I let you in enough and it gets
Mm-hmm.
intimate, right? And we start talking about some real stuff, you're gonna see me. The safety just determines how much I let you see. Period.
Period. And so when we're trying to get to these deep spaces, get into deep relationships, I have no other choice but to allow my mask to come off. Because either going, like you said, it's either going to come off naturally, or I take it off willingly, or if it's going to fall off.
Yeah.
I'd rather have more control over that. Like, I'd rather be the one controlling the narrative in that.
Right. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Because then if it just falls off, then I'm going to feel embarrassed.
Yes.
I'm going to feel naked. I'm going to feel exposed. Right. But if I just usher you into those vulnerabilities of myself, then I could, it's like me taking it off slowly. There's different when you take your wig off slowly than it just falling off in the grocery store. That's embarrassing. But if I just unmask a little bit.
Why the grocery store?
A little bit. I'm just saying. People don't want their wig to fall off in the grocery store.
Not the grocery store.
It's not safe. It's not safe. So if I do it myself through our conversation, through, you know, working through the boundaries too. We got to have boundaries. I'm not telling you to tell everybody your business. I'm not telling you to meet someone off a dating app and say, oh, they're safe. I could tell them all my business. No, that's not wise. But when they get through, you know, the first layer of questions and they get through, you know, they've been consistent. They seem like someone you want to keep around. Then we could start unmasking. We could start showing who we really are. And we could just throw that imposter syndrome out the way because you're not going to embarrass me.
Period. Nah, I'm in the same boat as you though, Jen. For you, like, and if this is too personal, you can let me know. But I wonder, like, have you ever dealt with imposter syndrome when it came to relationships?
Yes, until it got raw. So I am, you know, we do social media. I'm a speaker, and I know how to say the right things. Okay, we churchy, so I know how to rile the people up and get them going and do all of the things. But at some point I had to stop being the Jen, the conversationalist, and I had to allow somebody to see me. So that meant me being triggered, right? And the other person saying, like, you're rattled. Like, what's going on? Is there something else you need to tell me, or whatever the case may be? And then I had to make a decision. Was I going to fake the funk or feel like I'm not worthy of this, so let me run and get out of here? Or was I going to allow them to see me for real? So that was a decision.
Like that fight or flight type of reaction.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. At some point, you got to stop performing. And I feel like when we go from performing to being our authentic selves, then that defeats imposter syndrome.
Whew. So performance is one of those things that really keeps us in that imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. When we talk about surface stuff, or we start talking about things that they matter, but they really don't matter. Like, for example, you can talk about your accomplishments all day long. You know, that's us as career people or dominating in our field. But beneath all of that, you may be really terrified of even the idea of a relationship, and you faking the funk like, I'm ready to settle down and no, you're not, until you get triggered and you realize, wait a minute, something is happening. I have a fear, I have distrust, I have some things that need to be healed, or some things that need to be mended. And I think that, I know for me, I used to be a runner. So if you press the right button, me and my imposter syndrome will go on somewhere else where I could be surface, until I started having quality experiences. Then I had to deal with myself, and I had to talk about the things that made me afraid. I had to talk about the things that I didn't like. That meant sometimes I had to recall situations that happened to me to realize, well, why do I feel this way? Yeah. Right. I think one of the biggest things in imposter syndrome is dating, is feeling like we don't deserve love. Like, or this is, this, okay, they're here, so let me just take whatever I'm, whatever I'm dealt, right? Yes. And we really don't know what it's like to really have, for someone to have an equal desire for us, like we have for them, if that makes sense. And I think that rawness, that worthiness, that's what makes us have imposter syndrome.
Yeah. And it makes us more likely to settle.
Yes.
If we don't feel like we're worthy of that love. Um, that kind of feeds into my next question. I'm so happy you brought that up. So when talking about like settling and, you know, in a world of like the Kevin Samuelites and, you know, we got podcasters out here talking about like Black women or Shaniquas and stuff, like Black women have been, it's this notion that we need to just accept who likes us, basically, like just accept who we attract, because we're not worthy of some of these things, especially Black women in a particular age group, or if you got kids or what have you. It's trash. It's a very trashy notion. But I'm wondering for like the women out there, or even the men out there who kind of don't fit into that mold, like what are the dangers of kind of just accepting everybody who you attract, and how do we move away from that?
One of the things that I think we forget when we settle is that our settling is a mirror of our self esteem. You date on the level of your self esteem.
That part.
So when you say it's not just, oh, let me just make this work, this is you saying, oh, this is what I'm worthy of. Right. And sometimes I'm not talking about a look. I'm not even talking about a financial status. I'm talking about the way that they treat you. You're worth somebody being inconsistent. You're worth them you calling and them not answering you. You're worth not going on dates. You're worth not, because dating is not, I'm not just talking about an opulent experience. I'm talking about someone setting aside time to spend time with you, to get to know you. When you settle for just Netflix and chill, you settle for someone who is not intentional about you.
Ooh.
You think you're worth that?
Why are you stepping on their toes like that, Jen?
I'm just saying, because it's a real reflection of who we are. And what happens is the other person is winning because they got someone valuable. You're the one that's on the losing end because you don't know that you're worthy. You don't know that you're valuable. So they know they have a good person. And all they have to do is give you scraps. Why would you settle for scraps? Scraps take no effort. Scraps take no intentionality. Scraps take no consistency. It's whatever. And then what this is the thing. When you don't know your worth, you live in this toxic cycle of dealing with people who do not give you what you're worth. Right?
My goodness.
So you keep dating the same people in different bodies, the same spirit in different bodies, because you have not uncovered what you're worth and what
The
your standard is.
same spirit in different bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Break that down a little bit more, Jen. Break that down.
It's the same personality type, or it's the same toxic cycle. It's the same, because it's not, again, it's not just a look. It's not just, well, maybe I keep getting this because I like light-skinned men, or I like girls with big butts. No. There is something on the inside that is attracted to your brokenness, that you keep picking this same spirit. This same spirit that belittles you, this same spirit that talks down to you, this same spirit that gaslights you, right? We talk about gaslighting in corporate spaces, in religious spaces. We don't talk about gaslighting in relationships. We don't talk about manipulation in relationships, because you don't know what you're worth. And as long as you don't know what you're worth, people will keep discounting you. They will keep putting you on the clearance rack. They will keep putting you on the back burner, because you have not decided that this is the standard. You don't give people nothing to live up to, because you accept anything that comes down. That's what a standard is. It is a measurement. You need to come up here. And you're saying, well, no, I'll settle for down here. So you're going to keep getting bottom feeders. You're going to keep getting what's left, because you don't know how valuable you are. So you eat anything. You be with everybody. And that's poisonous. And you're going to eventually get sick. So that's the danger in the settling part. It's not about them. It's about you.
Wherever y'all are listening, I need you to write in the comments, I refuse to be on the clearance rack. I refuse to devalue my worth because other people might not see it. Like, I want y'all to write that right now, because Jen is hitting something. I feel it in my spirit, sis. Like I really do. I feel like there are people out there who really needed this message. And people might assume that, like, like you said, like we're content creators, like speakers. People might see us places and they assume that we don't go through these things, or we didn't have seasons where we experienced this. And I can say for myself, and I know Jen, you talked about it too. Like, we're talking about this because we lived it.
Period.
Yes.
My ex-boyfriend told me something that literally changed my life. And I'll say it's for both sexes. He did say this. He said, women really set the standard, and men are going to do whatever you allow them to do. So if you say that the bar is here and this is enough, we'll do here. This will be enough. But if you set the bar a little bit higher, either they're going to rise to meet you because they want to be with you, or they're going to release you to someone else who can meet that standard of what you're asking. That's why we got to set the bar. That's why we got to set the bar. Because settling will have you wondering if they're going to consider you for Valentine's Day. Right? And I'm not saying, y'all know, I want you to be authentically yourself and confident whether you are booed up or not. But if you are dating someone and you've decided to settle, their inconsistency will keep you uncertain. So you won't know if they have a plan. You'll spend, and I'm telling you this because I've lived it, baby. You will spend your days waiting, wondering if they're going to see your value, if they're going to show up, if they're going to send a token of, I don't want to say love because you'll know if they love you, but a token of their like. If they will even consider you to even make you their Valentine. That's the issue with settling. Because it will leave you uncertain. Because they haven't given you nothing to measure by. They're up and down. They're inconsistent. They're flip-flop. Right? That's the thing. It will leave you disappointed. Because you know what you desire. Right? And you've decided to live beneath your desires. And the only thing below that is disappointment.
The only thing below my desires is disappointment.
Yeah.
So if I'm settling and my desires aren't being met, I'm eventually going to be disappointed. Like, there's no way around that.
And because you want to settle, you'll talk yourself out of it. You're like, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, well, maybe next time. You're lying to yourself. They showed you exactly who they are, and you are disappointed. And that disappointment will turn into bitterness, and that bitterness will turn into resentment. And then you'll start hating good people. You'll start being paranoid of good partners because you settled. That's the danger in it. It has long-lasting effects.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jennifer Trotter. This is the singles whisperer that I've been telling y'all about. Oh my gosh. So many directions we can go in, but I respect your time, sis. And I know we wrapping up soon, but I want us to end on this question. Because you and I, we're like, I'm proud about my age, and I'm sure you are too. Like, we're both in our 30s. And so society would tell us that our biological clocks are ticking. Time is winding up. We gotta, settle down. We gotta have kids or what have you. What encouraging words would you give to that woman or that man who might be listening to this, who want to patiently wait on that godly relationship, that relationship that God has stored for them?
So first of all, I'm a woman of faith. So we just gonna get real churchy. First of all, I know who holds the clock. Let me tell you, I serve the one who holds the clock. So when I realize that, I understand that I am not behind, that I can always be on schedule because I serve the one who has the ability to pause time if he wants to. I serve the one who lives outside of time. So even my body, it doesn't dictate what we are and what we're not going to do. Now I understand science, but I serve the one who created my body. I serve the one who created the biological clock. He knows exactly how my body functions. He knows how old I am. The Bible says he knows the number of hairs on my head, right? So if he know that, he's not surprised by got age. He
Exactly.
knows what's going on, right? So I think we have to rest in that. And I know
Mm-hmm.
that sounds harsh, or it sounds like cliche, but one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that I always say is I always use Janet Jackson as just a pillar of faith. And she
Yeah.
never said that she was a woman of faith, but Janet Jackson paused her tour at 50 years old to have a baby. She said, I know
Mm-hmm.
y'all bought y'all tickets, but hold on. Wait a minute. Be right back. I'm going to have a baby. Janet Jackson had a baby at 50 years old. We gotta have that time. If that lady could say, now I know she got Janet Jackson money, so I'm not trying to, belittle that at all. But if she had enough faith to say it's gonna happen for me, that I'm gonna get something that I want, I need us to have that same faith. Now, coupled
Yes.
with that, also in the waiting process, as we look at our biological clock, or
Mm-hmm.
we look at time, don't just watch the clock without learning your patterns, right?
Yeah.
So look at what you've been doing, what you can do better, and how you can enhance your dating experience. It
Mm-hmm.
ain't no reason of you watching the clock and you talking about, oh Lord, I want to get married, I want to go this way, and you don't go nowhere. You don't do anything. You don't talk to people. You have your social skills are awful. I mean,
Trash.
horrible. Like, you don't even know how to say hello. We gotta work on those things. There are some practical things in dating.
Yes.
Everything is not, I'm a super deep person sometimes, but it's not just Lord, let love just fall off the sky. Maybe you need to go to a social event. Maybe you need to be social on social media, right? Maybe you should not be mean at work. And I'm not saying that you're going to date a coworker, but you may not want to be mean. You're 9 to 5 going to the grocery store. You just never know when it's going to happen. And I believe that we need to get some flavor in our dating lives. We need to also, while we're looking at the clock, while we're waiting for God to do what he promised, while we're waiting for love and all that good stuff, we need to ask our community how we're showing up in the dating
Mm.
space. Platonic friendships, right? There may be some
That
things that
part.
there may be some things that you're doing that is awful, that is off-putting to the other, to the opposite sex. And you need to know those things. You need someone that's going to be truthful and honest with
Mm-hmm.
you, because we keep saying I'm waiting on the Lord, and we're waiting for your breath to be better. We're waiting for you to do your hair. We're waiting for you not to have lint balls in your clothing. We're waiting for you to be able to hold and engage in a decent conversation. So you can wait on the Lord. Please be of good courage. But while you are yet waiting, I need you to do some practical things to enhance your dating experience.
Period, yo. Listen, you done read the people and encouraged them at the same time, which is why I love you. Jen, can you tell the people where they can find you?
Sure, you can follow me on Facebook at Jennifer Trotter. I have a picture of me and my mom on there, or you can follow me on Instagram at Lady Inspiration. I try to post a lot of singles tips, a lot of encouragement, and yeah, just ride with me. I think we're gonna have a good time.
Hey, I love it. I love it. Listen, Jen, you are a gem, not just to the body of Christ, but just to people in general who are trying to navigate these single spaces. Because I wanted to hold a space and a conversation where people can talk about or listen to an individual talk about confidently showing up in that dating space. I couldn't think of any other person to really like directly talk to the people the way you do. So I really appreciate you for your time and for your knowledge, your anointing, all of that stuff.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's always a good time with my sis, Dr. Chanda. So I'm so glad that you had me. It was such a pleasure chatting with you today.
Yes, thank you for coming, girl. I love you so much. And you are in my prayers, you and your family. And I love you. We're going to stay connected. We still got to get up. Like we both in the
Right.
DMV.
Yes.
All right, y'all. It's been real. Make sure you check us out next Wednesday when we have another episode of the Paging Dr. Chanda podcast. And don't forget, you have the power to create the emotions that you want to experience. Bye, y'all.